Are you able to name the biggest troubles that can happen to a woman in December? Her fur coat got caught in the escalator's teeth. Her father-in-law and mother-in-law came to visit from the provinces for the New Year holidays. Her boss held back her salary until January. Her best friend bought a brand new foreign car. Another friend was gifted diamond earrings. A third moved into her own mansion. A fourth flew off to the Caribbean. I sighed heavily and stared at the 10-liter pot, which was slowly coming to a boil on the stove. Many bad things can happen to us on the eve of the new year. But in the long list of troubles, no one expects one thing: the hot water being turned off. In the summer, it's natural. 3 weeks with a kettle in a basement in the bathroom are even good for us. When the heating plant finally starts working at full capacity, you feel a complete happiness that many of us didn't even experience on our wedding day. We have all resigned ourselves to the hot water being turned off in the summer. But in December... Today, having returned from work, I found a notice on the elevator door. Dear residents, we congratulate everyone on the new year. We wish you happiness, health, and success. We are informing you that the hot water in the building will be turned off for 3 days. The management office. All that was left was to throw up my hands and hope that as the next gift from Grandfather Frost, they wouldn't cut off our electricity. And as luck would have it, I was planning to go out tonight and hadn't washed my hair in the morning. The good Lord gifted me, Lampa Romanova, with strange hair. It seems like there's a lot of it, but my hairstyle only looks voluminous for about 2 hours after I style it with a hairdryer. That's why I wash my hair right before an event. I rushed home early, and here's a little souvenir from Grandfather Frost for you. Sighing heavily, I estimated the amount of water in the pot and poured salt into it. "Lampusha, are you going to boil some pelmeni?" Liza asked, running into the kitchen. "Making dinner for a family of elephants?" What a huge pot! "I need to wash my hair," I answered grimly. Liza laughed. "I don't see anything funny," I remarked, covering the pot with a lid. "It's very convenient to pour water on your head from a ladle." "Ha ha!" "Exactly," Liza roared with laughter, "especially salted water." I was surprised. "Why would you salt water for washing hair?" "Well, yeah," Lizaveta pointed a finger at the salt shaker. "What the heck are you pouring salt into the pot for? By the way, did you add a bay leaf and some peppercorns too?" I silently grabbed the pot by its handles and rushed to the bathroom. There you have it. The housewife autopilot kicked in. I forgot I wasn't making soup and salted the water. I hope my hair won't be damaged by the salt and I'll be able to style it nicely. Having somehow managed the bathing procedure, wrapping a turban on my head, I tried to turn on the hairdryer, but I failed. Warm air wouldn't blow from the nozzle. For the first minute I was seized by panic. Could it be that in addition to the hot water, they had deprived us of electricity too? But then I started to think logically. The spotlights in the bathroom are on, which means the trouble is smaller than it seems. It's just a broken hairdryer. Holding the towel with one hand, I dashed out of the bathroom. Okay, I'll go down to the first floor now and borrow a hairdryer from Masha Komarova. True, she and her daughter Nina have gone to the countryside. The Komarovs bought a house and are moving their things, but I have the keys to their apartment. Manya and I are close friends, and I always help her out. I water her flowers and stop by to check that the radiator isn't leaking. Masha works as an auditor. Her boss often sends her on business trips, and Nina is a stewardess, so she's out of Moscow for weeks at a time. Throwing Kiryusha's warm jacket on over my housecoat, I entered the elevator and held my breath. Some time ago, a residents' meeting decided to fire the elderly female lift attendants. People were indignant. We pay these old women a decent amount of money, but what good are they? Can a frail old lady really stop bandits? Let's hire real security guards. A Russian person likes to act on impulse. He'll chop off the branch he's sitting on, and only then will he realize, oh dear, I was sitting on it. The old women, offended by the neighbors, quickly found jobs in nearby buildings, and the members of our board, upon arriving at a security agency, were met with smirks. For the money you're offering us, only pensioners would agree to work for you, the head of security declared, with poorly concealed contempt. Our guys don't come cheap. And so the entranceway was left completely unattended. The residents didn't want to increase expenses, and the old women don't want to return to ungrateful people. Very soon it became clear to everyone. The elderly women had kept out drunks and homeless people who wanted to use the entranceway as a toilet. In short, the pensioners had their place. Now it's dirty, and vandals are constantly breaking the code lock. Shivering from the cold, I walked out to the mailboxes and turned left. A familiar scent wafted through the air. Chanel No. 5 inches. The classic of the perfume industry never gets old. There will always be women who will enthusiastically buy the simple rectangular bottle. By the way, I know one man who used this perfume. Semyon, Nina's father and Masha Komarova's husband, for as long as I can remember, always doused himself in the perfume of the great Coco. No amount of ridicule or teasing had any effect on Semyon. "Who said this is a women's perfume?" he would retort to those who were surprised by his choice. "Does it say on the box, 'Forbidden for men to use'? I like it, and that's that." Eventually, everyone stopped teasing Senya. Even his colleagues from the newspaper calmed down. I opened the door to Masha's apartment and went into the bathroom. Where is the hairdryer here? Ah, here it is, lying in a drawer. Suddenly, a creak came from the hallway. I got scared. "Who's there?" A rustle sounded in response. I became very frightened. The Komarovs' apartment is on the ground floor. The windows face the courtyard, and they don't have bars. Maybe a thief broke in? Putting the hairdryer aside, I grabbed a mop and peeked out of the bathroom. My eyes made out a dark shadow by the coat rack. "Freeze!" I yelled. "I'll shoot!" But the robber did not obey. In the blink of an eye, he threw open the door and was gone. I leaned against the doorframe, feeling a slight tremor in my knees. What a timely moment for my hairdryer to break. If I hadn't interrupted the scoundrel, he could have taken valuable things. How did the robber get into the apartment? Quite simply, he broke a window. I need to check all the rooms, assess the situation, and call Masha. Actually, I need to inform her about the trouble right now. I took out my mobile, got through to Komarova, and in response to my message I heard, "I'll be there soon. Please don't leave the apartment." "Don't worry," I assured my neighbor. "I'm not going to any party. I'll stay and wait for you." Shoving the phone into the pocket of my housecoat, I went to inspect the rooms and calm down slightly. Masha's bedroom was in perfect order. The windows were intact and nothing was touched. In the living room, a large artificial Christmas tree sparkled with bright ornaments. The television was still hanging on the wall. A DVD player stood on the small table, and there was nothing else of value here. It was unlikely a robber would be attracted to a sideboard with ordinary dishes or two cheap reproductions on the walls. One of them, it's true, depicted the Mona Lisa, but I think even the lowest criminal knows that the original portrait of the lady with the enigmatic smile is kept in the Louvre. The kitchen was sparkling clean. In Nina's small bedroom, on the other hand, there was a mess, but her room is always chaotic. The main thing was that all the windows were intact and closed. I took a breath. The thief probably had only just entered the hallway when my scream rang out, although I clearly heard the creak of the parquet floor in the corridor. A year ago, Masha's apartment was flooded by the neighbors upstairs. Water suddenly started pouring from the chandelier that hangs in the corridor. Thank God Komarova was home and instantly rushed upstairs. The flood was stopped, but near the bathroom, where a large amount of water had spilled, the parquet floor swelled up. Komarova was very upset. She wanted to redo the floor and called a craftsman who explained, "If we replace just 1 meter, nothing good will come of it. You need to change the entire parquet in the corridor. Or better yet, wait a couple of weeks. Maybe the floor will dry out and everything will settle down." And so it happened. Except now the floorboards in the corridor creak desperately, while the entryway has tiles, so everything is fine there. Consequently, the intruder had been deeper inside the apartment. I sighed, sneezed, and suddenly realized Nina's bedroom smelled so strongly of Chanel No. 5 inches, it was as if a lady who had doused herself with an entire bottle of perfume had just been here. My head spun. I had to sit down on the poof by the bed, and I immediately noticed a pink, plush teddy bear on the nightstand. In its paws, it clutched a small velvet box. I grabbed the toy. That was it. The sharp fragrance was coming from it. I began to feel uneasy. Our friendship with the Komarovs is many years old. Masha and Semyon have lived in this building for a long time. At first, they occupied a 1-room apartment on the 7th floor. Then they moved to a 2-room on the 4th. And then they moved into this 3-room. When the Komarovs were offered a move to the ground floor, I actively advised them not to make the exchange, citing well-known arguments. It will be noisy and unsafe for you to live on the ground floor. Masha agreed with me, but Senya was stubborn. 2 rooms are not enough, he said. 3 are much better. Don't argue. The Komarovs moved downstairs, and a couple of months later, real estate prices shot up sharply. One could only marvel at Senya's foresight in predicting the whims of the property market. The Komarovs didn't have money for a good renovation, so they simply repapered the walls, sanded the floors, and lived happily. But Senya didn't enjoy the new apartment for long. A year and a half ago, he died in a car crash. He was driving on business, lost control of the car, and crashed into a concrete fence. Semyon was rushed to the hospital, where he passed away. Masha and Nina were orphaned. For 6 months, my friend refused to communicate with friends, then slowly began to recover. At the end of May, Nina persuaded her mom to go with her to a birthday party of some mutual acquaintances. I was also present at the celebration, which took place in a large shopping center. To get to the restaurant, one had to walk through rows of boutiques, pass a fountain, and take an escalator to the 2nd floor. At the foot of the moving staircase, a sweet girl in a red jacket was handing out glossy tickets to everyone. "What is this?" I asked. The beauty pointed with an elegant hand to the left. "See that car over there? It's worth €1,000,000 and is the main prize of the lottery. Buy a ticket. It only costs 1,000 rubles. Maybe you'll get lucky." I smirked. One classic author advised never to play games of chance with the state. "The lottery is run by a private company," the girl reported seriously. "All the more reason." I didn't give up. "I'd rather buy myself a gift with this 1,000. I doubt anyone will manage to win a car for that kind of crazy money." "I'll take a chance," Masha said suddenly. "Look for a ticket with the number 1506 in that pile." "One moment," the girl said politely. "You know, there is one." "I'll take it," Masha smiled. "Why that specific number?" I was surprised. "Have you forgotten?" Komarova sighed. "It's Senya's birthday, June 15th. Maybe I'll get lucky. €1,000,000 is a huge amount of money. I kept quiet. It wasn't worth disappointing a friend who was showing an interest in life for the first time since her husband's death. Around 11 in the evening, the sound of a fanfare was heard, and everyone was called to the prize draw. I preferred to stay in the restaurant and eat some ice cream. I had barely finished my treat when a jubilant crowd burst into the hall. "Champagne for everyone!" the birthday boy yelled. "Now that's a stunt! Orchestra, let's get this party started!" Waiters scurried around the hall with bottles, and the sounds of Verka Serduchka's immortal hit blasted from the stage. "Everything will be all right!" the guests shouted in unison. "No, no!" objected the birthday boy, snatching the microphone from the singer. "We need to sing it differently. Everything is very all right for Mashka. Manya, your dance!" People clapped their hands, and a red-faced, embarrassed Komarova was pushed to the center of the hall. "What happened?" I asked an unfamiliar woman who was pouring herself water from a bottle. "Fools get lucky," she answered with poorly concealed anger. "That idiot won the car." And just like that, Mashka became the owner of a hefty sum. The most interesting part is that the company didn't cheat. They paid Komarova the value of the foreign car. The newspapers wrote a lot about this miracle. Manya was even featured on a TV show, becoming a screen star for a while. And then she fulfilled her dream. She bought a mansion in the Moscow suburbs and is moving there soon with Nina. They will rent out the Moscow apartment. Tenants today pay well for a 3-room apartment located near the metro, even if it is on the ground floor. It seems a bright period is beginning in Masha's life. Fate took her husband, but it gave her a house, some consolation, however small. It's unlikely Manya will ever marry again. And it's not about her age or appearance. Masha looks much younger than her years. She has an easygoing character, and she's an excellent homemaker. It's just that it will be difficult for her to find a husband as attentive and loving as Senya. There were many traditions in the Komarov family. For example, on their wedding anniversary, Senya always took his girls to St. Petersburg. It was in that city that he and Marusha met. And for every New Year, on the 30th, Nina would receive a pink teddy bear from her dad. In the early 90s of the last century, Senya went to France on business, straight from a hungry, dark Moscow to a bright, festive Paris. Senya didn't have much money. It was only enough for a small gift for Masha and a pink teddy bear for Nina. Since then, it became a tradition. On the 30th of December, the girl would receive another plush Top-Tegan. There they all are, of different sizes, but invariably pink, sitting on the shelf. I mechanically counted the toys. With the clumsy one sitting on the nightstand, there are 17 of them. 17! I jumped up from the poof and checked the number of plush brothers again. 16 on the shelf and 1 by the bed. But this can't be. I know for a fact that Senya went to Paris in 1992. He brought Masha a watercolor back then. The Eiffel Tower against a sunset, with the artist's signature in the corner. I went out into the corridor. There it is, the cityscape in a thin frame. At the very bottom, the name, surname of an unknown Frenchman, and the date, 28th of December, 1992, are written in a sweeping hand. And now let's do some simple arithmetic. Senya passed away at the end of May 2007. So how many bears should there be? From 2007, we subtract 1,992, and we get 15. That's right. On the eve of the Year of the Rat, Senya was already lying in the cemetery, or rather, his ashes rested in a columbarium. But now I see 16 toys on the shelf, and one more on the nightstand. It turns out that a dead man is dutifully giving gifts to his daughter. I went out into the entranceway. The smell of Chanel No. 5 inches. It smelled especially strong near the mailboxes and in Nina's room. And now let's sum it up. A pink teddy bear, the smell of Chanel, a black shadow in the entryway. My hands started to shake. No, calm down, Lampa. The dead don't use perfume and don't wish a happy new year, not even to their dearly beloved daughters. I returned to Masha's apartment. "Lampa!" a voice called from the corridor about 20 minutes later. "Where are you?" "Here," I answered in a hoarse voice and came out of the room. "Were you scared?" Masha rushed towards me. "Thank God," Nina added, kicking off her shoes. "What happened here?" I began to recount the story about the hairdryer. Then I couldn't stand it anymore and asked, "Don't you smell anything?" Nina sniffed the air. "No." "I took out the trash before we left. There's nothing to stink up the place," said Masha. "All right, let's go have some tea. It looks like we got off with a light scare." "The thief probably entered the hallway, and then you screamed, 'Freeze!' Very foolish behavior," Nina chided me. "What if he had a weapon? You can't attack a criminal." "A mop wouldn't have helped you," Masha echoed her daughter. "You don't smell the Chanel fragrance?" I interrupted the women. They exchanged glances. "No." "Not at all?" Masha shrugged. "It's very stuffy in the apartment. We need to open all the windows." When she went into the living room, I motioned for Nina to join me in her bedroom and asked, "Tell me, does anything surprise you in here?" The girl blinked. "Should it?" "Look around carefully," I ordered. Nina obediently turned her head. "Well?" I inquired impatiently. "If you want to reproach me for the mess, you better not start," Nina declared angrily. "This is my room." "Who is sitting on the nightstand?" I pointed my finger at the toy. "A teddy bear," the younger Komarova answered. "Exactly," I whispered, and the apartment smelled of Chanel No. 5! And the same fragrance is coming from the plush toy. How do you explain these facts? Nina sat down on the bed, which was cluttered with things. "Lampa," she said wearily, "any job leaves an indelible mark on a person. A teacher is constantly educating everyone. A doctor is treating their family, and you work at a detective agency, so you see crimes everywhere. What nonsense has gotten into your head? You've decided that Dad is alive?" "Yep," I nodded. "What foolishness," Nina fumed, blushing. "I hope you'll hide your conclusions from Mom. She has only just recovered from her grief." "But the bears," I insisted, "on the shelf. They always sit there." "True, but you should count them." 16, Nina reported without any surprise. "There should be 15, I persisted. "Senya died in May of 2007. Tears welled up in Nina's eyes. "Stop it," she pleaded. "I bought the 16th bear for myself." I woke up on the morning of December 30th and found that the nightstand was empty. It was then that I realized Father was dead, forever. Words can't describe what I felt. My horror. I ran to the store and bought the toy. "And where did this one come from?" I wouldn't let it go. "Who brought the 17th bear?" Nina wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. "You won't tell Mom?" "My lips are sealed," I promised. "A safe without a key." "I have a boyfriend," Nina blushed again. "One of our pilots." I told him about the bears and Dad, so Leonya decided to do something nice for me. He gave me the little Toptigan yesterday. On the one hand, it's a sweet gesture, but on the other, thoughts about Dad's death flooded back to me again. "I'm asking you, please don't upset Mom. There's no need to tell her anything. I nodded and, out of nowhere, added, "The bear reeks of Chanel perfume." "I use it all the time," Nina assured me. "The bottle is in the bathroom, on the shelf by the mirror." "And what's in the little box?" I displayed inappropriate curiosity. "A little souvenir," Nina smirked. "Can I see?" The girl grabbed the toy and placed it on the shelf. "Sorry, Lampusha, it's very personal." A crash and Masha's scream came from the living room. "Nina, help!" Her daughter rushed to the call. I walked over to the new member of the Pink Bear family, picked him up, once again carefully examined the price tag that hadn't been torn off, saw the date of sale on it, the 30th of December 2008, and lifted the velvet lid of the box. On a small cushion sparkled a ring with a large diamond. The present could in no way be called a sweet little souvenir. The young pilot had shelled out more than 1,000 for this piece of jewelry, and not in rubles. I carefully lifted the ring along with the cushion, just as I thought. Inside lay a small tag, indicating that the purchase had been made this afternoon at an expensive store. Let's see, the stone's carat, clarity, the weight of the setting, and here's the name of the shop, Sergio. And the ring, by the way, also has a name. At the very top of the tag it was written, "Item Siren." The familiar creak came from the corridor. I quickly put the bear back in its place and jumped away from the shelves. Masha entered the bedroom. "Everything is in perfect order everywhere," she announced. "I don't think there's any need to call the police." "That's right," Nina chimed in, appearing at the doorway. "What's the use? Lampa scared the thief off. Even a broken hairdryer can be useful sometimes. I should probably go." I came to my senses. "I'll just grab the hairdryer, if that's okay, of course." Take it," Masha nodded. "We'll just pack a few things now and off to the village. It's so beautiful there, the forest, fir trees, the snow is sparkling. If only Senya could see this nature. My Senyechka, my love. It's so bad without him. Unbearable. I would give anything to just get a glimpse of him. Why did he leave me? It's so unfair. I'm doing very, very badly without him." Tears welled up in Masha's eyes, and I hugged my friend. Who brought the pink teddy bear into the house? A thief comes to steal, not to plant a gift, a toy with a diamond ring. If I go to the jewelry store, maybe I can get on the trail of the strange robber. I feel very sorry for Masha, who has been grieving for her dead husband for 2 years now. But is he really dead? "Let's celebrate New Year's in nature," Nina exclaimed with exaggerated cheerfulness. She clearly wanted to distract her mom from her sad thoughts. "We'll hang up garlands." "Great," I agreed. "We're also moving to Mopsino for good soon. We already lived there in the summer and temporarily returned to the city in the fall. They're delivering furniture in January. We'll arrange it, and goodbye, Moscow." "And what will happen to the apartment?" Masha asked with interest. "We haven't decided yet," I smiled. "Maybe we'll rent it out." Nina coughed meaningfully. I went to get the hairdryer, stood for a minute by the sink, studying the row of jars and bottles on the shelf by the mirror. Then I heard Nina's voice. "Lampusha, sorry. Give us back our keys. You know, the ones we left with you." I handed her the set. "Yes, of course. Here you go." "The renters are coming today," Nina chattered. "I hope we can reach an agreement. Then I'll give them the keys." "Good luck," I nodded. It no longer smelled of French perfume by the elevator. Now it reeked of herring and fried potatoes. Obviously, dinner was being cooked in apartment number 2, located opposite. I returned home and found a note on the table scribbled by Kiryusha. "We went to the movies. The dogs have been walked. There's no sausage. Kappa stole it." Our dogs are, in principle, well-behaved. There are usually no particular problems with them, except maybe when Capitolina attempts to swipe something from the table. And judging by the boy's message, her hunt was successful today. I underlined the spelling mistake in the word sausage and wrote above it, "Shame on the Mitrofanovs. Sausage. The Czech word is sausages." Took the note to Kirik's bedroom, tidied myself up a bit, found out the address of the Sergio store by phone, and went down to the car in the courtyard. The shop that sold diamonds was shining with lights. In the window naturally stood a Christmas tree, around which hares, a wolf, a fox, and completely unexpected for Russian reality, a giraffe and an elephant were dancing in a circle. The jewelers had spent a lot of money on decorations. The little green tree shimmered with multicolored lights. The hares wiggled their ears, the wolf raised and lowered its head, the fox squatted on its hind legs, the giraffe turned its head, and the elephant raised its trunk. Onlookers crowded around the window, but the guard in a dark coat looked at the people quite good-naturedly. It seemed he himself was amused by the zoo. Inside the store it was full of customers. On the eve of the year's main holiday, people were stocking up on gifts. I was quietly surprised. Before, ahead of the new year, Muscovites and visitors to the capital would fight over mayonnaise, and now they grab diamonds. Times are changing, and we are changing with them. Deciding not to draw attention to myself, I stood by the display case where unpopular silver glass holders and cutlery were exhibited. "Can I help you with something?" A lady of about 50 immediately emerged from the back room. "Would you like to buy a gift for someone? Or have you decided to treat yourself?" I examined the saleswoman carefully. Her hair was dyed blonde, her forehead clearly shot up with Botox, her lips pumped with silicone, her bust, on which hung a name tag Veronica, also looked unnatural. Too much foundation on her neck, lots of rings on her fingers, but the most precious for a woman, a wedding ring, was missing. "Planning a gift?" Veronica smiled languidly. I lowered my eyes. "Not exactly. Honestly, I don't know where to start. You're a very young woman. I don't think you'll understand me." Veronica squinted coquettishly. "My youth is past. I'm already 38, she lied briskly. "I've gained some experience." "I thought you hadn't even celebrated your 25th birthday yet," I brazenly flattered the young pensioner. Veronica laughed softly. "Alas, I'm 34. Well, it seems the matron was starting to have memory problems, a sure sign of senile sclerosis. A few seconds ago she had announced the number 38, and now she had knocked off another 4 years. However, a bad memory has its benefits. You'll never suffer from insomnia. What do you need for a peaceful sleep? A clear conscience. And if your conscience is silent, it means you've completely forgotten about some of your mischief. You see, I have a husband, I whispered conspiratorially. Veronica tried to raise her eyebrows. There are beautiful men's bracelets, rings with zodiac signs. No. Cigarette cases? It's not about the purchase, or rather it is, but, I just don't know how to explain. I carefully feigned embarrassment. Completely by accident, I found out my husband was in your salon today in the first half of the day. He bought a ring. It's called Siren, gold with a diamond. The stone isn't very large, but quite respectable. It's just that— What? Veronica lost her patience. He already gave me a similar piece of jewelry, I whispered, a month ago for our wedding anniversary. I understand, the lady nodded sympathetically. I really want to know who he came with. I have my suspicions, I whined. Maybe the saleswoman will remember. Veronica pursed her lips. We don't encourage gossip about our customers, but I sympathize with you. All men are bastards. True, I chimed in with fervor. No exceptions. Absolutely right. Goats, freaks, lustful baboons, goblins. I sealed it. Stinking orcs. Who are they? Veronica was amazed, clearly not having read Tolkien's books. It doesn't matter. I waved it off. Bad people, although they're not people, but to hell with them. The saleswoman leaned over the counter. Wait here. I'll be right back. I obediently froze by the display case and pretended to be engrossed in studying the awful shot glasses made in the shape of wild animals. The vervet monkey impressed me the most. The glass shot glass stuck out of its back, and to drink from it, you had to take the monkey by the head and bring its rear end to your mouth. A very original solution. I wonder if anyone has yet been found who enjoyed slurping vodka from a primate's butt. Psst, came from the side. Psst. I turned my head. Veronica was standing at the service entrance door, beckoning me with her hand. Go to the courtyard, the lady said quietly. Alachka is smoking there on the playground. She'll tell you everything. Thank you, I said, delighted. You're welcome. Veronica suppressed a sigh. Women should help each other, then these bastard men will quiet down. Look at Alachka, a beauty, and her fiancé ran off to an old but rich one. She used to come to our store buying up rings, and then she disappeared along with the deputy manager. Veronica hadn't lied. A slim, dark-haired girl in a bright blue down jacket was sitting on a bench near the sandbox. I remember that guy perfectly, she declared without any introduction. A strange one, I went on point. What did you notice that was unusual about him? He didn't take long to choose, Alashka explained. Usually men are worse than women. As picky as women are, guys are total bores. They'll work themselves into a lather until they find out what's what. There was a client just now. He spent 40 minutes choosing a chain. Drained my brain. Where the gold is from, where it was mined, if there's a certificate of quality, and then he spent just as long fiddling with the box. Why the hell did he need to look at the packaging with a magnifying glass? Jeez. He paid 4,000 rubles, called home right away and announced, "Darling, despite your not-so-good behavior, I've bought you a luxurious gift. Appreciate my attitude." See? He considers a 4,000 chain a magnificent offering. Your husband is different. Really? I feigned amazement. Alashka sneezed, wiped her nose with a woolen mitten, and continued. He came in around 3 during a lull, walked up to me, pointed a finger at the display case and grunted, "That one." The saleswoman gave the customer a once-over and asked, "Do you know the size?" 17, came the short reply. "I can also offer emeralds," Alla started to sweet-talk him. "That one," the guy interrupted her. "I'll take it." "Let me tell you about the stone," Alla offered. "Don't. How much?" 200,000. She stated the price. "Write it up." Slightly surprised by the brevity of the conversation, Alashka scribbled a receipt, handed it to the uncommunicative client, and asked, "Please proceed to the cashier." "No, I'm paying here." "I'm not authorized to take money." "Here." Alashka was flustered, then made a decision. "All right, I'll call the cashier now. Take it yourself. The register will ask for the PIN code for the credit card," the girl explained. The man pulled out an envelope. "I'm paying in cash." "Okay," Alla gave in. "We'll give you a small discount. We'll sell the ring for 180,000. The guy meekly handed over a wad of bills. Alla carefully recounted the money and exclaimed, "There's an extra 5,000 here. That's a tip." "Thank you." The girl was delighted. "I'll bring the receipt now." When the customer, who had been muttering single words through his teeth, left with the ring, Alashka was suddenly seized with anxiety. She ran to the cash register and said to her colleague, "Larka, check the bills I brought you." "I always check the 5,000 bills under the light," Larissa answered without any excitement. Everything is in order." "But he was alone," Alla told me. "There were no broads around. If he was buying a gift for a mistress, he was planning to surprise her. And what did the man look like?" I asked. "Have you forgotten what your own husband looks like?" the chatterbox giggled. "Maybe it wasn't my husband at all. The siren ring was one of a kind. Don't doubt it. Your hubby came running. Still, try to describe the customer." Alla stood up from the bench. "He's taller than me, a valuable observation considering the pretty brunette doesn't even reach 1.60 meters. "By about 20 centimeters, Alla continued. "Thin, black hair, down to his shoulders, a knitted hat on his head, also a beard." "A beard?" I asked in bewilderment. "And glasses, for distance," Alla finished her description. "What made you decide the lenses were for a nearsighted person?" "Because he took them off and held the ring right up to his eyes." "Interesting," I whispered. "Can you remember anything else?" Alishka shivered. "It seems he's not your husband." "True, but it's extremely important for me to know who bought the siren. By the way, are there many such pieces of jewelry?" Alishka frowned.
"And why should I be blabbing with you? Veronica asked you to help me." "You deceived her," Alishka protested weakly. "Nika was recently dumped by her fiancé. Now she pities everyone who's been ditched by a man." I took my ID out of my bag and handed it to the saleswoman. "Oh!" Alla jumped. "The police! In that case, I'm totally leaving." "Look closely. It says private detective." "But you're a woman," the girl declared, flustered. "So what? Is there a law forbidding a woman from having a career as a detective? By the way, the Ministry of Internal Affairs is full of members of our sex. Does that mean if I don't wear a uniform, I can't conduct an investigation?" "No offense," Alla smiled. "I'll try to help you. But I've already told you everything about the hair, the beard, and the glasses. Sometimes clients leave their phone number. True, we inform them about new collections, but this wasn't that kind of case. Birthmarks, scars, didn't notice any. Eye color? Blue. Or no, brown, green. Damn, I don't remember," Alla said, upset. "Clothing?" I continued the interrogation. "A black coat. Looked like cashmere. A small hat, a scarf," the saleswoman listed. "All normal stuff." "What about his hands? Did you see his fingers?" "Normal. He doesn't get manicures, but his nails are clean." "Maybe you noticed a car?" I clung to my last hope. Alishka pulled a new cigarette from the pack. "He went towards the metro." "Are you sure?" The girl nodded. "We have huge windows. You can see the street perfectly. The entrance to the subway is nearby." I automatically glanced after the guy, wondering what kind of woman a guy like that would have, and he took a couple of steps, bought an ice cream, and disappeared into the underpass. "Ice cream?" I perked up. "What kind?" "No idea," answered Alla. "There's a kiosk there. The guy bought a brick, then they started arguing about something with the vendor. He kicked her stall, she jumped out, started yelling. You couldn't hear the words, of course, but from her expression it was clear. The old lady was not praising the bearded man at all. Alishka hadn't lied. A round kiosk was huddled by the pedestrian underpass, over which a pole with the letter M rose. I tapped my finger on the glass, and a small window opened a crack. "What?" Someone barked from inside. "Excuse me, please," I began politely. "I don't give information," the vendor yelled. "You all come here in droves. Muscovites can't get a good job. You've taken all the cushy spots and we're freezing out here on the street." Slam! The little window shut. A person who spent their entire childhood in music school, plucking a hated harp, is distinguished by a rare patience. I once again scraped my nail on the glass that separated me from the nasty old woman. "What?" "An ice cream, please." "Which one?" "To your taste."
My taste is to drink some hot tea and go to bed. Say the name. It's written on the price list for the idiots." "That little blue one on a stick." "Little blue one on a stick," the nasty old woman mimicked. "They're all little blue ones on sticks here. Can you read, you dimwit?" "I graduated from the conservatory." "Then open your eyes." Slam. The little window closed. I gathered the remnants of my self-control into a fist. That nasty old woman probably goes home and starts complaining to her relatives about the tiny revenue from which her boss gives her a percentage. Does it really not occur to the old hag that a customer needs to be treated well? If I didn't need to find out at least some details about the bearded man, I would have left in a flash. All right, I'll read the names and try to establish contact with the harpy. Let's see. What did they call the little blue one on a stick? Hedgehog's poop, I hiccuped. A bold choice for a food product, however. Although ice cream is mainly consumed by young people, they would probably like such a joke. Lisa and Kiryusha, for example, watch some cartoon on TV with little animals. The unfortunate squirrels and bunnies die an agonizing death in every episode. One gets its head torn off, another is run over by a bus. But the kids don't experience any negative emotions. They laugh until they cry, while I, having watched the cartoon to the end once, nearly burst into tears out of pity for the piglet who was eaten on his own birthday. And I would never buy a treat called hedgehog's poop. But I don't rule out a keen interest in it from the younger generation. And so, take 3. My fingers drummed on the window. "What?" "Give me a hedgehog's poop," I demanded. "What?" "Hedgehog's poop," I repeated, "in a waffle." "What?" "The ice cream. Hedgehog's poop." "Are you nuts? We don't sell shh. I'm calling the police. Why, you damn pfft," the old woman screamed. And at that moment my patience shattered with a clang. I shoved my ID into the little window at the granny. Here is the translation. I have been extremely careful to preserve the original text's formatting and all line breaks exactly as they were in the source. "The police are already here. Why are you making trouble?" The old woman lowered her tone. "Got nothing better to do? Come out and read your price list," I demanded. The door creaked, and a huge pile in felt boots, headscarves, and an immense jacket crawled out onto the street. "Hedgehog's poop?" the granny said, confused. "Who on earth called it that? It's a new item, just produced. Hey, are you blind? It's not hedgehog's poop. It's Yeroshka's little beetles. You have to read the price list carefully. What a day. Only 2 customers, and one is a psycho, the other's a cop." "Did someone upset you?" I asked sympathetically. The old woman adjusted her headscarf. "Some idiot started bothering me, demanding a Leningradskoye without jam. I sold him the product, took the money, and this dolt starts stuffing his face right on the street in the freezing cold, takes a bite, and starts banging on the glass. Change it for a proper one. I answered him decently. This factory only makes Leningradskoye with filling. But how can you prove anything to a fool? He kicked the kiosk, threw the ice cream back at me, the damn psycho, and went into the metro. I hope he went to see Verka." "To Verka?" I asked. The vendor's story had thrown me for a loop. "Who is that?" "A nasty face," the old woman grimaced. "Sits downstairs in the underpass. A schemer. I used to work in that spot. People pour out of the subway and grab ice cream. They enjoy the treat even in winter, eat it by the newsstand and move on. It's warm there, for the people, and no draft for me. And here, on the street, you won't find many fools eating ice in December. So I sit here bored all day waiting for the evening. I don't close at 8 because some people buy ice cream to take home after work. And it's all Verka's fault. She spread gossip, lied to the bosses about me, and so they moved me here. And who did they put in the sweet spot? Verka, that wretch.
Forgetting to say thank you to the grumpy old woman, I rushed towards the underpass. There were too many coincidences to consider them random. Chanel perfume, a pink teddy bear, a shadow in the hallway, and now Leningradskoye ice cream without filling. Senya adored it. He belonged to that rare breed of men who would turn away from a boiled pork sandwich, but would eagerly eat an ice cream bar. I remember very well how one time our families went for a walk in the park. First we went on the rides, then we got hungry and went to a cafe. The children, and Masha and I, went for shashlik, while Semyon bought himself 2 chocolate-covered bricks and began to lecture us on proper nutrition. "My, how undiscerning you all are," Senya grumbled, unwrapping the paper. "How do you know what breed of dog your lunch was made from?" "Stop it," Masha said, annoyed. "Don't talk nonsense. Nobody cooks dog meat here." "Then it's cat meat," Senya didn't let up. "In my opinion, it's better to eat ice cream, tasty and healthy, milk and chocolate." Ugh! Damn them, innovators. Senya jumped up and went back to the woman from whom he had just purchased his lunch. "Papa is no Winnie the Pooh," Nina laughed. "What's he unhappy about?" I wondered. "Look at him laying into that vendor." Masha rolled her eyes. "You won't believe this. Now they put fillings in all the ice cream. Jam, nuts, honey, caramel, and Senka hates jam. He needs plain ice cream, in its pure form, so to speak. Just a chocolate glaze, and that's it. He buys his beloved Leningradskoye out of habit, takes a bite, and gets angry. They've stuffed it with jam again, and he starts cussing, demanding one without additives. But that's a rarity these days. You see why I got so agitated. It's all coming together into a single picture. It seems the deceased, Senya, brought the ring and the teddy bear. Running to the tiny shop in the underpass, I called out to the saleswoman. "Vera!" "Huh?" A round-cheeked woman of about 40 turned around. "Hello there. Which one for you?" "Did a man in a hat and a black coat come to you?" I asked out of breath. "No, just 2 little girls," the saleswoman explained willingly. "There they are, munching on their cones by the newsstand. No frost is a match for our kids." "The customer was here during the day, around 3, I specified the time. Vera narrowed her eyes. "And why do you need him?" "I'm keeping an eye on my husband," I answered quickly. "Lied about a business trip. But he's wandering around Moscow himself." "In a hat and a black coat?" the vendor specified. Yes, I nodded. "Look around. They're all like that," Vera grunted. I looked more closely at the crowd. The woman was right. Out of 10 guys, 4 were in dark clothing, and the vast majority wore knitted hats. "My husband has a beard and long hair," I decided not to give up, "and he might have been fussy, demanding a Leningradskoye without jam." "Listen," Vera started smiling. "There was a guy like that. Showed up in the middle of the day. I had stepped out to the toilet for a second, left a note, 'Technical break.' I come back. This marvel is standing there and fuming. As soon as he saw me, he started hissing. 'It's the middle of the workday. Where did you go?' and so on. I didn't want to get into it, so I asked politely, 'Which one for you?' And this guy, for crying out loud, answers, 'Leningradskoye, but no tricks. Give me a proper one. Don't try to palm off one with jam, and I don't need one with peanuts. If you trick me, I'll give it back to you.' What do you say to someone like that? I handed him the ice cream, he grabs it and starts unwrapping. But what about the money?" I listened to Vera, holding my breath.
Seeing that the scandalous fellow was about to take a bite from the brick, Vera got indignant. "Pay first." "No way," he snapped. "I just bought one and threw it away. As soon as I see there's no jam in it, I'll give you the money. Convinced?" Vera grimaced, looking at the half-eaten brick. "Or did you decide to gobble it all down? I'm about to call a cop." The customer threw a 5,000 ruble note on the counter. "Here." "Are you out of your mind?" Vera jumped. "I don't have that much in the register." "Get change." "And where?" "Your problem," the man smirked. "And hurry up. I don't have time to hang around here. I'm in a rush." Vera had to close her spot and run to the flower stand. "If that's your husband," she finished her story, "then you have my sympathy. Very nasty. And he was doused in some kind of Granny's perfume." "Granny's perfume," I repeated quietly. "Yes," Vera nodded. "My father's mother had a similar one. I forgot what it was called. She used to give me the empty bottles to play with, shaped like a Kremlin tower." "Krasnaya Moskva," I said. "Exactly," the saleswoman nodded. "I don't want to offend those who created this perfume, but its aroma is an exact replica of the scent of Chanel No. 5. I remember very well how my mother, a singer, used to buy these bottles and give them as gifts to her colleagues from different countries who came to the USSR on tour. The ladies, upon receiving the present, were pleasantly surprised. "This is Chanel?" some would exclaim. "No, it's Krasnaya Moskva," my mother would smile. In the Soviet years, foreigners took jars of black caviar, truffle candies, Lux face cream, and this very perfume that I've mentioned multiple times, as souvenirs from the country of victorious socialism. "And where did the man go afterwards?" I inquired. "Into the metro," Vera shrugged. I fell silent. I could, of course, ask the attendant near the turnstiles, but what are the chances she would remember a man in a black coat who passed by her several hours ago? But even if she has a sharp memory, so what? After passing the gates, the ghost of Senya got on a train and disappeared into the tunnel. The best way to get lost is to use the capital's subway. So what now? Sighing loudly, I went up to the street, got into my car, and drove home. Why did Nina lie to me? For what reason did she say that an admirer gave her the teddy bear? Although, maybe I'm mistaken. It's quite possible that the girl found herself a gentleman with a beard and long dark hair. He bought her a pink teddy bear and a ring. Nothing special. And the Chanel scent? Probably Nina's fiancé also adores this perfume, and the ice cream without jam? Here, too, the stranger's habits coincided with the habits of the late Senya. Nina is probably right. I've developed a maniacal suspiciousness, a professional disease for a detective. I need to stop this fruitless search and go home. Tomorrow is New Year's. I have a ton of things to do. The holodets isn't cooked, the vegetables for the salad aren't prepared, and in the absence of hot water— Suddenly Masha's pale face appeared before my eyes, and her halting voice rang in my ears. "Oh, Lampusha, I would give half my life to see Senya again, even with just one eye." I shook my head. Masha is certain of her husband's death, but Nina is clearly hiding something. I pulled my mobile out of my bag. The best way to get an answer is to ask a question. I'll arrange a meeting with Senya's daughter right now. Let her introduce me to her bearded, long-haired fiancé, a lover of ice cream without jam, and then I'll calm down. I'll inhale the scent of Chanel No. 5 emanating from the man, and understand. The most complex mysteries, as a rule, have simple solutions. It's just a chain of coincidences. The subscriber's device is switched off or is outside the network coverage area, a pleasant female voice answered. I tried again, and once more heard the melodic soprano. Nina and Masha were planning to leave for the new house. Most likely the mobile connection is bad there. At our place in Mopsino, there are such dead spots on the property. If you want to use a cell phone, you can't stand on the veranda. And here's an interesting thing. My phone doesn't get a signal in the garden, but Lisa's works wonderfully there, yet it glitches in the living room.
I dialed Masha's number and immediately heard, "Hello." "It's Lampa," I said cheerfully. "Do me a favor. Call Nina to the phone." "She was urgently called in to work," Masha answered sadly. "Someone got sick." "What bad luck," I muttered. "Tell me about it," Masha replied. "I'm on my way to the Lesnikovs. I'll celebrate New Year's with them. It's depressing to be home alone." "I thought you were already out of town," I drew out. "I didn't have time to leave," Masha explained. "Just after you left, Nina got the call." "Where are you now?" "On Kutuzovsky Prospect, I told you. I'm going to the Lesnikovs. They live in Odintsovo. The taxi drivers have gone completely wild. They're charging triple the fare," Masha fumed. "And what about the renters?" I asked quietly. "Who?" Masha was surprised. "Nina said you were expecting people today to whom you intend to rent the apartment." "No," Manya laughed. "You've mixed something up. We only contacted an agency yesterday, and they promised to find the first candidates for us in early January. You see, we want to house a married couple from Moscow without pets, with a child of about 5 to 7 years old. In my opinion, that's the best option. A dog will ruin all the furniture, and it will stink." "Dogs don't smell," I rose to the defense of our beloved pets. "You've just gotten used to it," Masha giggled. "Your pugs are practically skunks. And Ramik, he's a total garbage dump." I was offended. "Masha is lying. Mulya, Fenya, Kappa, and Ada are as clean as babies. I wash their paws twice a day. At night, the dogs always go into the bathroom. Their ears and noses are cleaned weekly. Ramik and Rachel are also extremely neat. They have shampoos and coat conditioners. And also, don't think I'm crazy, of course, but a couple of times a week I brush the dog's teeth. Nowadays, they sell special brushes for different dogs and beef-flavored toothpaste in stores. One time, Vovka Kostin mixed up the tubes and used the one for the pugs. "It's fine," the major said. "Feels like I ate a cutlet." "I understand it's hard for you," Masha sighed. "Katka has dumped the entire household on you, saddled you with the kids, and then there are the moronic dogs. Pugs are so ugly. Their faces are like old monkeys, and they are exceptionally stupid. Come on, admit it. Dogs are nothing but a nuisance. It's high time they were banned in Moscow. They crap on the streets, they bite people." I was dumbstruck, and for the first minute wanted to throw the phone down and forget about Komarova forever. It seemed our friendship had come to an end. I am calm about criticism directed at me. Masha could joke about the size of my bust and my overly large feet without any negative consequences for our relationship. I wouldn't be embarrassed by hints about my lack of beautiful curls. Even an unflattering assessment of my mental abilities wouldn't cut me to the quick. You can call me a lousy homemaker, a bad governess, and a failed daughter of Sherlock Holmes. You won't succeed in offending me. I am perfectly aware of my shortcomings and realistically assess my virtues. But the pugs! A person who dares to say something nasty about the dogs is forever added to the list of my blood enemies. Mulya is stunningly intelligent. Kappa knows how to dance to music. Fenya solves integral equations. Ada can easily sing Aida's aria. Ramik composes poems. Rachel plays the harp, and they are not stinky at all, and not dirty, and not stupid.
A wave of indignation washed over me. I'm about to tell Komarova everything I think of her and then head home. Lampa, you fool. You decided to help your neighbor, got it into your head that Senya is alive, and schemed to find him. What foolishness. Semyon's body was cremated long ago. His ashes are in a columbarium and... "Hey, Lampa," Masha called out to me. "Why did you go quiet?" The anger suddenly vanished. Friends should be forgiven for their mistakes. Never before had Komarova said foolish things about dogs. On the contrary, she used to praise the pugs, and whenever she dropped by, she always brought rye crackers for them. Masha's nerves must have given out. On New Year's, you always feel the absence of a loved one sharply, and the widow has to drink champagne with the Lesnikovs. No doubt both Petya and Anya are very pleasant people, but they are not close relatives to Masha. By the way, the only relative she has left is Nina, and she is currently flying to Beijing or somewhere. "Everything's fine," I replied, trying to calm down. "Have a happy New Year's celebration." "Same to you," Manya replied with unexpected anger. "And wash your dogs. You should do it at least once every 12 months.
The line went dead, and I was suddenly overcome with pity. Poor Masha. She must be having a very hard time if she's lashing out at a close friend. It gives the impression that she is determined to offend me. But I understand. Komarova is suffering without her beloved husband, and it's my duty to get to the bottom of this strange incident. I pressed the gas pedal. Nina had lied to me several times today. First, she called the contents of the velvet box a trifle. Did she not know what was inside? Or did she want to hide the diamond ring from me? The former is more likely, because the receipt attached to the siren indicated the time of purchase. The bearded man was in the store at 12:30, but according to Masha, she and her daughter left for the new house yesterday. I turned the steering wheel and drove down a narrow street known only to local residents. Why did Nina lie about the tenants who were supposedly about to come view the apartment? The answer is simple. She wanted to get the keys back from me. Why? Nina was afraid that the overly attentive and curious Mrs. Romanova would once again enter the apartment in the owner's absence and find... what? Nina was clearly frightened. Of what? Parking my car at the supermarket, I walked the rest of the way home, slipped into the building entrance, and approached the Komarovs' door. All bad things eventually end well. I don't like the dirty elevator and the broken code lock, but the absence of a curious concierge would now allow me to enter someone else's property unhindered. If Marya Andreevna were sitting at the desk, I would never have pulled off this trick. The old lady loved to watch people, ask too many questions, and was generally nosy beyond measure. Her replacement, Sofia Petrovna, was also not known for excessive modesty, and the third concierge, Ksenia Lvovna, seemed to have an extra pair of ears and an extra eye on the back of her head. How do you open a door without a key? I opened my bag, rummaged in a small pocket, pulled out a bent piece of metal, and carefully inserted it into the keyhole. Alas, a private detective sometimes has to break the law. By the way, the lock on the Komarovs' door is as simple as can be. It can be easily opened with a paperclip. People sometimes behave strangely, installing steel doors and then equipping them with very primitive locking mechanisms. The door opened and I slipped inside. Right. My advice to anyone who decides to sneak into someone else's apartment in winter: do not take off your outerwear or your shoes. If the owner suddenly returns, there will be a tiny chance of remaining unnoticed. You can slip out onto the balcony and not freeze, and a strange coat on the hanger will immediately alert the apartment's owner.
After carefully wiping my boots on the doormat, I went to Nina's bedroom. Why there? If the girl is hiding something, it's in her room. But what a mess it was in here. On the bed, which was covered by a bedspread hanging to the floor, lay a pile of clothes. I rummaged through the things. Nothing special, it seemed, except for one thing. The not-so-well-off Nina wore very expensive underwear and did not limit herself in buying clothes. There were at least 10 crumpled turtlenecks here alone. Jeans, cashmere pullovers, Angora sweaters, silk blouses. The flight attendant's wardrobe was worth a fortune. Although Komarova works for foreign airlines, she probably brings things from other cities that are cheaper than Moscow. And her cosmetics are high-end, and she has about 10 bags. I can't afford to buy fancy purses, but I know perfectly well that that leather sack over there costs about $3,000. In our family, we have Lizaveta, a passionate fan of glossy magazines. About once every 2 days, she runs into my bedroom and whispers, "Lampa, look, how lovely, a handbag, a dream." I nod silently, and Lisa starts to sniffle. It costs a freaking fortune. If I save 100 rubles every day, I won't have enough in a year. After crying about her hard lot, the girl leaves, and I remain in the deepest bewilderment. Why on earth is a leather good sold for such an unreal amount of money? But Nina had acquired these advertised purses for herself. She reads the same publications as Lisa. Look, there's a pile of Vogue, L'Officiel, and Bazaar magazines on the windowsill. Why had I never paid attention to Nina's luxurious clothes before? I sat on the pouf by the nightstand and stared at the trinkets lying in disarray on the bedside table. Before, about 2 years ago, Nina dressed like everyone else. She had acquired these chic clothes only recently. And what about jewelry? My hands reached for a small secretaire, and just then there was a sound of a door from the hallway. I froze, jumped up, and realized there is no balcony in Nina's bedroom. The person who entered the apartment began to rustle around in the entryway. A creak was heard, a sigh. I had only one way out. Have you ever tried to get under a not very high bed while wearing a warm jacket on your shoulders and cozy boots on your feet? Believe me, it is extremely inconvenient. At first, I tried to squeeze under the bed with my clothes on. Then it occurred to me to pull off my down jacket, throw it into the dark space, and I slipped in after it. I managed to do this just in time. I had barely hidden my feet behind the bedspread when someone entered the bedroom. I pressed myself to the floor and tried to breathe every other breath. Curiosity was tearing me apart. Who had broken into the apartment this time? Clearly not the owners. Masha is on her way to the Lesnikovs, and Nina was called in to work. Now I'll just carefully lift the edge of the bedspread and try to see who it is. A sharp phone ring made me jump. I went cold. Someone decided to chat with me. Diving under the bed, I had completely forgotten about my cell phone. "Yes," a familiar voice said brightly. The invisible fingers that had been squeezing my throat loosened their grip. Contorting myself, I fished the mobile out of the pocket of the jacket lying next to me and quickly turned it off. "I'm at home for now," the soprano exclaimed, and I realized Nina was in the bedroom. The girl turned out to be a professional liar. She had lied to her mother about being called into work and had returned home herself. "Okay," Nina was saying in the meantime, "but don't do any more stupid things. I don't need any gifts. I'll decide for myself what to buy." Silence fell. I lay quieter than a mouse that knows a thin, hungry, dangerous cat is sitting on the other side of its hole. "I understand," Nina continued. "Okay, at 7. At Pushkinskaya, by the first car from Sokol. Yes. I hope Fyodor won't be there. That Ryabakin of yours is quite a character. Will it work out?"
No, she believed it, 100%.
"Don't worry." "Oh, Papa, stop it. I'm completely alone at home. This mobile is only for you, and your love of making surprises nearly brought disaster upon us. I'll tell you tonight. Please, calm down. Mom thinks I was called in to work. She went to her friends for New Year's. No, wait, my other mobile is ringing. Hold on."
I was covered in a cold sweat. "Papa?" Nina could address only one person in this way. Therefore, Senya is alive? He didn't die in a car crash?
"Hello," Nina said in a cheerful voice. "Mommy, is that you?" "Hi, me, at Sheremetyevo. We're taking off soon. What bad luck. I'll celebrate New Year's without you. Now, don't be upset. Say hello to your friends. Thankies. What should I bring you from Japan?" "Haha, of course. A live one? Just kidding. A money cat figurine. A porcelain kitty with a raised paw. Got it. Don't doubt it." "Yes, Mom, it's a long flight. The cell will turn off when we land. I'll text you. Smooches, you're the best mom in the world."
For a split second it was quiet.
Then Nina said, "That was Mother. She's arrived at her destination. She and the Lesnikovs are going to decorate the Christmas tree in the yard." "Oh my God. Fine, I'll bring it with me. Don't worry. Yes, I remember. Papa, I'm not 5 years old, and I wrote down the address. Please, don't yell. I'm not an idiot. The coordinates are in plain sight. I'm telling you, I'm not an idiot. If you don't hide something, it won't attract attention. I wrote the address in the calendar that hangs in the kitchen. There are a lot of notes there. I encrypted it. But we're meeting at 7 at Pushkinskaya. Okay. A surprise is waiting for me? Super. Ciao."
Silence reigned again. Then came the sound of off-key singing. Nina was clearly getting ready to go somewhere. The wardrobe doors creaked. Then something heavy was slammed onto the mattress above my head. The wooden slats bent. And I got scared and tried to press myself harder into the floor. "Lord, please don't let Nina look under the bed." Though why would she? There's nothing here but clumps of dust. Time crawled by at a snail's pace. My whole body ached. My throat was scratchy. It only seems comfortable on the floor. Not at all. The parquet is hard, and there's no air under the bed. Finally, I heard the click of the front door. I peeked out from under the bedspread, took a few convulsive breaths, and understood how a lover feels when the rightful husband, not finding him in the closet, walks away. Barely alive from the ordeal, I, panting, crawled out and looked at the clock. 6. Plenty of time to get to the Pushkinskaya station. Naturally, I would take the metro, but I needed to slightly alter my appearance. And also, Nina had mentioned an address written on the calendar. Shaking off my stupor, I rushed to the kitchen. Most homemakers, having attached a poster with a picture of adorable kittens or puppies to the wall, use it as a notepad. At our place, for example, the calendar is covered with phone numbers, and it's the same situation at the Komarovs. The only thing is, I don't have an extra hour to meticulously study all the notes, so I'll use the fruits of scientific and technological progress. I took out my mobile, took a few pictures, then for some reason tiptoed down the corridor, slipped out onto the landing, and after carefully locking the apartment with a picklock, entered the elevator. I needed to run home. At 10 to 7, I took up an observation position on the platform. If you want to remain unnoticed, you couldn't find a better place than a noisy metro station. Crowds of passengers rushing towards the two transfers, an endless stream of people descending from the center of Moscow into the subway, a horde of vendors and homeless people. The latter are forbidden to be in the metro. But can the attendants really stop a person who, although poorly dressed, is sober and has honestly paid for a ticket?
And also, by some unknown means, stray dogs and birds get into the station. Knowing about the hell that breaks loose at Pushkinskaya around 6 in the evening and continues right up until the start of the Vremya news program, I still decided to camouflage myself. Right now, I'm wearing a gray jacket and Kiryusha's baggy pants. I hid my blonde hair under a simple black baseball cap and, of course, didn't take a handbag. My mobile, wallet, and other small items fit in my pockets. But Nina didn't bother with a disguise, although she did throw a gray scarf over her head, and in her black coat she could easily blend into the crowd. The younger Komarova was sitting on a bench opposite the spot where the first car stopped. The express trains replaced each other at a frantic speed. The sea of people swayed on the platform. I sneezed, lost sight of Nina for a second, pulled out a handkerchief, sneezed again, glanced at the bench, and was stunned. Nina was gone. Cursing good manners, I should have just wiped my nose with my fist, then I wouldn't have lost the girl. I took a couple of steps forward, saw another train burst out of the tunnel, felt the breeze from the passing cars on my face, and heard a piercing scream. "Murder!" The crowd swayed, and I involuntarily began to move with it. Cries darted above the platform. "Help! Over here! Call the police! Ambulance! Quick!" "Step away from the edge of the platform," the radio boomed. "For technical reasons, the train will not proceed further. Please vacate the cars." "What happened?" I asked a tall man in blue. "A homeless guy fell under the wheels," he answered angrily. "They get drunk and then crawl in here to get warm. Now I can't get home because of this fool." I looked around the crowd in confusion, searching for Nina. No chance. More than half the women were dressed in black, and gray is the most fashionable color of the current season, so the fair half of humanity had bought up scarves and shawls the color of a well-fed mouse. Wherever you look, you see the same thing, figures in clothes of depressing tones. "Make way!" they yelled from the left, and I was pushed in the back. I darted towards the wall, and 2 cops and 3 guys in blue jackets with ambulance written on them walked past with stony expressions on their grim faces. I felt hot. "They pulled him out," a child's voice shrieked. "Oh, Mommy, he's so bearded." Using my elbows energetically, I pushed my fellow citizens apart and squeezed through to the place where the policemen were crowded. "You can't go there, citizen," one said sternly. I made pleading eyes and suddenly saw a handbag from the latest Yves Saint Laurent collection standing alone on the bench. Nina had fled the subway, forgetting it. "That's my bag there," I stammered. "Where?" The cop scowled. "I left it on the bench," I bleated. "I got scared, ran away, and forgot my thing." "Kolya!" the sergeant shouted. A policeman standing a little ahead turned around. "What?" "This one says her stuff is over there. Let her come," the guy graciously allowed. The sergeant stepped aside, and I took a couple of steps. "Damn," said the guy in the blue jacket. "Guys, look. The beard is fake, and it's a wig. A cunning homeless man. Not even old, and he was pretending to be disabled." "And he stinks of perfume," another paramedic chimed in. "What a thing to douse yourself with." I approached the medics. The smell of Chanel hit my nose. On the platform lay a body. Strangely, it was almost unharmed. In any case, recognizing the face was not difficult for me. Before me was Senya, who had died a year and a half ago. "Semyon!" I gasped. "You know him?" the policeman asked with interest. I nodded. "This is Semyon Komarov, my neighbor, but he—" My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. I wonder how the young lieutenant would react if I finished the sentence, "He died in a car crash long ago."
Would they send me straight to the loony bin, or first accuse me of disrespecting an officer of the Ministry of Internal Affairs? "He has documents on him," a paramedic announced. "Here, a passport. The guy's not homeless, he's clean, just poorly dressed. Nikitin Sergei Mikhailovich, resides at Lesnaya Street, House 10, Building 12. "You've made a mistake, citizen," the lieutenant sighed. "Go on home. Your neighbor is probably drinking tea with marshmallows." "Uh-huh," I nodded. "Yes, that's right. I was mistaken. Can I take the handbag?" "The oilcloth one?" the policeman specified, pointing to the patent leather accessory from Yves Saint Laurent. "Of course. And scram, quickly." What a bunch of people. Always have to stick their noses in everywhere. They see their pals everywhere. I got out of the crowd, went upstairs, stepped out onto the street, and got on a trolleybus. The door to the apartment on Lesnaya Street was locked, but that didn't stop me. I once again used the paperclip. Clutching the expensive bag, I very quietly entered the room, flicked the light switch, saw a slender figure by the wardrobe, and said, "Well, hello." "Lampa!" Nina recoiled. "You? What? How? Why?" "I brought the bag you left at the Pushkinskaya station," I answered. "I wasn't there," Nina lied. "Right. Right now you're flying to Japan, handing out juice to passengers," I grimaced. "Why did you kill Semyon?" "Are you crazy?" Nina jumped. "He fell on his own." "Interesting," I hissed. "Now, step away from the wardrobe." "Go to hell," the girl said rudely, but I had already managed to yank the door open, saw a shoebox on the shelf, grabbed it, and lifted the lid. Inside lay thick wads of money.
"And here's the reason," I said with satisfaction. "How many millions are here? 500 ruble notes, 100 of them in each bundle, so that's 50,000 per wad. Not bad." "It's not what you think," Nina said in a hollow voice and sat down on the sofa. "I didn't touch Papa."
"I'm ready to listen to any fairy tales," I nodded. "Begin."
"A year and a half ago, Semyon was buried in a closed casket. All the funeral arrangements were handled by Komarov's best friend, resuscitator Fyodor Ryabikin. When Masha wanted to open the casket, Fedya stopped the widow. "Don't do it," he said. "It's better for both you and your daughter not to see the remains." The women listened to their good friend. They mourned Senya for a long time and began to live without him. It was very difficult. Masha earns little, Nina earns a little more. 4 months after the funeral, Fyodor called Nina and asked, "Come to the Luchik Cafe." The girl arrived for the meeting, and Ryabikin told her stunning news. Her father was alive. Senya, with his journalistic persistence, got involved in a certain case, Fyodor explained. "It's about a bank robbery. The criminals stole banknotes that were being transported for incineration. The criminal elements ended up with a huge sum of money." "And what does Papa have to do with it?" a stunned Nina whispered. "He was tailing the bandits, pretended to be one of them, was planning to write a bombshell exposé," Ryabikin explained. "Not only did he witness the robbery, but he also grabbed a lot of cash himself, and then he slipped up. They figured him out, but Senya managed to escape. It's crystal clear. The head honcho doesn't want to see some journalist who easily outsmarted him alive, so Semyon died. I helped him. I registered a vagrant's corpse under his name, and that's who you cremated." "Mom will go crazy," Nina shuddered. "She shouldn't know anything," Fedya sighed. "Where is Papa? Why did he send you?" Nina got nervous and then angry. "I'm glad Father has a lot of money, but we're practically starving." "Calm down," Ryabikin replied. "If you suddenly come into large sums of money, it could arouse suspicion from the bandits. So what now?" "Wait." "For long?" "Well, 2-3 years." "Super," Nina sighed. "Thanks, Dad."
Don't be nervous. The doctor stopped the girl. I have an idea. There's a company that has planned a lavish advertising campaign for itself. It will hold a lottery. Masha will buy a ticket and win a car worth €1,000,000. Then no questions will arise as to where you got the money. And who's going to fork over $1,000,000 for Mother? Nina laughed. Your company? Will it really part with a car? The local bosses are very kind. No. They give $10,000 to an actress who will pretend to be the winner. I suggested Masha for this role, only your mother will really believe that she won the prize. Masha is not very smart. I'll tell her that I'll handle the paperwork for the winnings myself. She, naive as she is, will believe it. Fedya laid out his plan, and the performance was a success, I grunted. Everyone, including me, was convinced of Lady Luck's smile. Masha bought a house. And where did you get your fancy clothes? Papa gave me money for expenses, Nina admitted sourly. We met each time in a new place, just like spies. He lived under a fake passport. I've actually never been here, but I have the address written down. On the calendar in the kitchen? I interrupted. Dry cleaner, laundry, fitness club. Well, who would pay attention to a street name and house number among other information? However, you were taking a risk. I encrypted the address. Wonderful. I'm smart. I agree. And Papa is a fool. He missed us so much, he told me to buy a second mobile. He was calling on it all the time. He longed for Mom. Then why didn't he reveal himself to Masha? You could have left together. Mom's a fool, Nina hissed. She can't keep her mouth shut. She would have instantly blabbed to you and to her other friends. The bandits could have gotten to Papa. We had a different plan. And what was that? I asked. We wait until spring. Then Mom and I go to the village. There we drown in a boat on the river and you don't have to continue. I nodded. Honestly, I thought it was you who pushed your father from the platform. No. Nina started crying. I loved him. And he. Oh, what an idiot. He came home secretly on the 30th of December, brought the teddy bear with the ring. Last year he did the same thing and got away with it, but this year, the bandits must have been watching him, figured him out, pushed him from the platform, killed him. The version about a hitman seems unconvincing to me. I grimaced. Why? Nina looked up. If criminals were on Semyon's trail, then they, knowing where and under whose name the journalist was living, should have taken the money, but the cash is lying peacefully in the box and... A soft creak made me fall silent. Who is it? Nina whispered, turning gray with terror.
The one who killed Senya? I answered quietly, quickly turning off the light. Probably your papa's friend Fyodor. There's simply no one else. Or maybe it is the bandits. Quick, let's hide. I shoved the box into the wardrobe. We scurried behind the curtain. I widened the gap a tiny bit and began to watch with one eye. Lord, please let it be the resuscitator Ryabikin and not a couple of cold-blooded killers. The light flashed on, and for a second I squeezed my eyes shut. Mom! Nina screamed, flying out from behind the curtain. Masha, who had managed to open the wardrobe, dropped the box, and wads of euros scattered across the dirty floor. Sweetheart, but you're flying to Japan, she mumbled, and you're decorating a Christmas tree with friends. Nina was not at a loss for a reply. I came out of my hiding place. Masha furrowed her brows but said nothing. You knew everything. Nina was slowly coming to her senses. But how? I figured it out, Masha shrugged. It wasn't hard. You were always being secretive on the phone. You bought a second mobile, hid it from me. At first I decided you'd gotten a lover. I couldn't just let things slide. I followed you and realized Senya is alive. You are a wonderful actress, I sighed. You asked for my help so touchingly. Masha smiled. I overdid it a little. I didn't expect you to charge into battle. I wanted to stop you. I said nasty things about the dogs and decided that now Lampa would be offended and stop sticking her long nose everywhere. Well, you really needed that hairdryer at the wrong time to show up just when Senka dragged that teddy bear in, idiot.
He could have gotten us into trouble. They would have killed us all. But now the money is ours. We don't have to be afraid of the bandits. They only wanted to bump off Semyon. Nina and I have nothing to do with it." "Mom, you pushed Papa," Nina whispered. "Don't be ridiculous. He fell on his own," Masha declared. "And anyway, what are we talking about? What about Semyon? He died long ago. I don't know anything." Nina covered her face with her hands. I took out my mobile and opened the photo of the calendar. "I see. Here's the entry. Stepnaya Street, House 1000. A fine cipher. Stepnaya, Lesnaya. And there aren't that many houses on it. It's clear that number 10 is what's needed." Masha started smiling. "Of course, I'm not that much of a fool. Ninocek, we're rich. And Papa, he died a year and a half ago. There is a niche in the columbarium. Semyon's ashes are there." "Mom, he loved you so much," Nina moaned. "He protected you, guarded you." "And I adore my own child," Masha declared. "And when Lampa saw that damned teddy bear, I immediately realized Semyon is a cretin with romantic impulses. He'll get us into serious trouble." I tried to temper Lampa's suspicions, sang a song about my longing and loneliness, and then, when Ninka went to the toilet, I went into her bag, took the second mobile, found out Senya's number, and after a while, I connected with him. We agreed to meet at 7 at Pushkinskaya. "No wonder Papa said a surprise was waiting for me," Nina gasped. Masha laughed shortly. "But he didn't say a word to me that you would be there too. You see, you couldn't deal with him. Which of us is the fool? If you've gone into hiding, then stay put. Don't stick your head out. Don't bring toys home. Don't show your face to your daughter. Cretin!" He heard my voice and started crying. "Mashenka, I love you. I've been going out of my mind here." "Pfft! Mom!" Nina began to rock from side to side. "Mom!" "I didn't lay a finger on him," Masha blinked. "I didn't even have time to get close before Semyon fell. The crowd crushed him. And let them prove otherwise, by the way. Which of us is going to file a police report? And about what? About Senya's death? Ha!" Unable to bear this nightmare any longer, I slipped sideways out of the apartment, left the building, and trudged towards the metro. I don't know what Nina will do. She loves her mother very much, and she also loved her papa, and Semyon loved his wife and daughter. They all loved each other, but Masha loves money more than anything in the world. This whole story happened because of love. My head was spinning. I need to hurry home, hug the pugs, pet Rachel and Ramik. Interacting with dogs is calming. I never saw Nina and Masha again. They moved out of the city, and they rented out the city apartment to a married couple with a little girl. We arranged the furniture in Mopsino, and now we too dwell in the bosom of nature.
I didn't tell anyone about what happened at the end of December at the Pushkinskaya metro station. Why? There is no answer to this question. Semyon can't be brought back. The police didn't open a case. The death of the man in the metro was ruled an accident. And besides, I still have a glimmer of hope that Masha didn't lie. What if Senya really did fall from the platform on his own? After all, I didn't see the moment of the murder, and cannot say with 100% certainty, yes, it was Maria who pushed her husband. She wanted to live richly and happily, without fear that bandits would knock on her door. Some people believe that the words wealth and happiness are synonyms, but forgive the banality. You can't buy happiness with money, and life and true love are given to us for free.